Thanks for stopping by the Hellcat Dogman channel. I'm your host, Hellcat. This audio is for historical purposes only. Today we'll be doing a profile on what some may consider the greatest dog, one of the greatest dogs to ever look through a collar, Grand Champion Buck, as told by the Keystone Kid. How you doing, Keystone?
I'm good, Hellcat. How are you, brother?
Keystone Kid. That's my man, Keystone Kid. I'm all right, man. So before we get into it, I wanted you to break down the original breeding of Buck because there was a little controversy involving his breeding back then.
Well, yeah, because the original paperwork that came with Buck, and when we re-registered him, he was a heavy tombstone dog. Kino Coco, Kino Dolly was his grandparents, basically. And that's what we were looking at. And then it had to be after STP and the boys got him. He was probably a grand champion at that point, I think. Pretty sure he was, that Pat Patrick changed the paperwork. And that really came down because Pat had none of that original blood left in his yard.
Okay. So so that and the other one that they had him registered side by Golden Boy, I think it was.
Yes, Golden Boy, correct.
Right.
Golden Boy Red Lady, I believe it was.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And
And that, to me, that was his true pedigree. When you looked at him, man, he looked like a heavy tombstone dog. Red nose. I mean, he just looked like a heavy tombstone dog. And he produced like a heavy tombstone dog. The other one, Faith, I think what was the other one? Little Tater? Yeah, he was not Little Tater. Yeah, he was not.
Right.
I don't think so, right? I think, Pat was all about selling the puppies, right? And like I said, I pretty much knew, and everybody knew that at the time, Pat didn't have any of that blood left in his yard.
Oh, okay.
The stuff bred exactly as Buck was.
Right.
So, if you're going to make money off your puppies, what are you going to do, right?
Right.
You got arguably everybody saying one of the greatest dogs to ever live. Well, you make your living selling puppies, and you ain't got any of that blood. Boy, he's now got a different pedigree. And and I stopped actually. At that point, I stopped even registering with the ADBA, right? Because of that. I mean, how do you do that?
Right.
Anyway, it's done.
Right.
So you believe what set of papers you want to believe. Maybe that's me, but having lived with that dog and bred him, and yeah, he's a heavy tombstone dog.
Okay, so let's go into the early life of Grand Champion Buck before he was a Grand Champion.
Oh, let's see. Alan and I actually got him from his mother's eye doctor. He was a Hispanic gentleman who liked American Pit Bull Terriers and had a few of them, but Buck was crazy. And I mean, he really was a fight crazy, hard dog to keep in a kennel or chain situation. I mean, God, he was hard. When he came in the house, he was great. So, Alan had picked her up, and they was talking to the doctor, and the doctor wanted to get rid of him, but he wanted a puppy. He wouldn't take money for him, so we had just bred Booger to a female as a favor and got a pup back that we weren't crazy about the bottom end of it. So we actually traded that puppy for Buck, and he was 11 months old, and that was I think that was early spring of 82, I think, the year-wise. God, just thinking back, that's a lifetime ago now.
Right.
And he was 11 months old, not quite 12 when we got him. And I took him back from New York with Alan back to the Philadelphia area with me because he was a young dog, and Alan had a bunch of the older match dogs and brood stock up at his place, and the younger dogs were me. So he was 13, 14 months, and he had got into it in an accident, got out the back door, and my young daughter at the time was playing with a gunner bred dog, and they got into it, separated him, and I went, I think I'm going to take a look at him this weekend, and took a look at him, and he looked good. Nothing like he looked a little later. By his second roll, which was about a month and a half later, I took him into the city and there was a gentleman, Pop Shooter. He used to do a lot of shows down there, and he had a really good, harder biting 2-year-old. And I wanted to see what happened when he got bit. And Pop Shooter's dog bit him, and Buck just wrecked him. I mean, he wrecked him. And he was 53 pounds at that time, I think it was 53, 52. So I took him up to New York, and we took another look at him, Alan and I, and this was about a 25-minute look. So that was his third time down. And again, he wrecked the dog we put him with. So we decided to hook him up, and he came back with me, and it was into Aldo Zeke, I believe, when the first time, I think. Yeah, it was. And that didn't last very long. He destroyed Zeke.
How, how
Buck
was
had,
how was Zeke
Go
bred? You remember?
I don't. He quit, right? Zeke quit 2 or 3 times and still won 4 of them, I believe. I actually put Zeke in a bag with grand champion Booker a few years later. He didn't get a chance to quit on that one.
Mm.
So back to Buck. When I put him through his first pre-keep, I drew him all the way down to 46 pounds. And I didn't like him that low. I didn't.
Right.
49 pounds, I believe, was his first.
So what signs he gave you for you to have this to be suspicious of the weight that he was in that brought you to the realization that you didn't like him at that weight?
Because during that pre-keep was when we rolled him the third time. Okay. All my dogs I put through a keep the first time. And, I don't, it's not, I am not going to put you right into the box, right? Because that dog doesn't know what's coming. So, when I've taken a few looks at him and I know I'm going to do something, I'll basically just put him through a whole keep. And, I'll start him out at a weight, I think, and draw him down a little lower, a little lower, a little lower until I don't like it, and then back up to where I like it. So it was
Oh,
at that
okay.
point, that we were a buck, and I just didn't like his mouth at that weight. He had much better mouth at 49, 50 pounds, quite honestly.
Oh, got you. Okay.
He really did. I mean, Buck was a hard biter, but I think he was a hell of a lot hard biter, a little bit bigger. But who's to argue with STP? You know what I mean? I mean, they
Right.
were the most. There wasn't a better kennel ever in the history of this sport. Okay, there wasn't. So I'm not going to argue with him. It's just I liked them heavier, they liked them lighter,
Right.
and that's all that was to me. So he made Zeke quit quick, 30-some minutes, I think it was. Don't hold me to that. I don't remember. Gunner. So, the next, he sat off, and he was 18 months old. He was 18 months old when we went into Zeke with him. So I was actually 18, 19. He was 20 months or 21 months when we went the second time with him. I didn't work him for that one. Alan did. And he brought him in heavy, paid the forfeit, and Buck still won over Mr. Bill and them guys. The thing about Buck was I don't know if anybody ever, I saw all the Bucks but Sandman. I don't know if anybody ever really seen the best Buck had, to be honest with you. Because he just did enough he had to beat that dog. He really did.
Right.
I mean, most of his matches at about 20-minute mark, people were betting against Buck, quite honestly, because he'd be kind of lazy there. All right?
Right.
The best way to answer, he'd be kind of lazy. But it wasn't. It was figuring that dog out. And once he figured that dog out, yeah, it was over.
Oh, okay.
It really was. I mean, did Buck have a style? No, Buck didn't have a style. He had whatever style he needed to beat that dog. He was super smart. Hellcat, he was super smart. I mean,
Right.
as a house dog, one of the best dogs I ever had in the house. I mean, well behaved, liked people. The only problem is you got to put him in a vari kennel when you were out, or if you came back, your couch was in pieces. I thought my wife at the time, Gay Condonel's daughter, was going to put a bullet in him at one point when he chewed her couch.
Mm.
And then from then on, he went in until he went back to Allen's. So, like I said, he went back to Allen's to be worked, and I was working Booger for his championship at that time. And when we got up, that it was that was the Conan dog, Mr. Bill or Pat, Mr. Bill's old partner, Pat. He had a dog Conan, who was his house dog, was a very good dog. And Allen came in over the weight. Allen, our partnership was breaking up. I loved Allen dearly. He was part of my family. Married my mother-in-law after this, but Allen was a junkie, plain and simple. I mean, and he was always. The reason I started taking the older dogs away from them and then broke up was I'd go up there and be fresh marks on the dogs. He's out wherever he is, rolling them for money, man.
Mm.
So
While
that's
he
what
was
really
while
broke
he
us
was
up.
while he was battling his demons, huh?
Yeah, as he was battling his demons. And look, he got clean in life. Alan got clean for about 16 years and wind up dying from AIDS, which he had gotten from intravenous drug use.
Right.
But he had cleaned his life up. And, that's a testament because
Right.
he was pumping 80 thou a year or better into his veins. And Alan was one of the most talented people you could imagine. He he was a tile and carpet layer, and he worked in the most expensive homes in Westbury, Union, and in New York on the big projects. He used to build transmissions for drag racers.
Mm.
He could do anything he put his mind to, and he could also do a lot of drugs.
Right. Right.
And quite frankly, when we split up, I took Booger because I got a feeling he was going to sell both of them for money, for dope.
Right.
And, I was like, I'm going to take Booger. And he wound up selling Buck to John and them, and they invited us, Alan and I, to every one of his shows.
So when you
They
say
were,
when you say in John, so my uh listeners, you referring to STP.
yes, I am referring to STP. John was a true gentleman, right? And he kept his word. If I bred the Buck 2 or 3 times after they had him, and Alan bred to him 2 or 3 times. The deal was that either one of us could breed to him, and John and them always honored that. Always honored it.
Okay.
And like I said, they invited us to every one of his shows. The only one is I didn't get to see was Sandman's.
Oh, okay.
I had dogs going the same weekend out in Pittsburgh, so it was like I gotta go, can't, right?
Well, how did we know how Buck show turned out? How did you do that weekend, being that you had some dogs going that same
I
week?
had I had 2, and I won both of them, but I still would have rather gone and seen Buck. To be
Oh,
honest
okay.
with you,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
as a matter of fact, my dad and Alan went. My father and Alan went to that show.
It was in the South, right? It was in the South.
Yeah, it was deep South. I think South Carolina. I think it
Oh,
was.
okay. Okay.
It was. And like I said, John and them were just they were men of their word. What else to say about Buck? God, there's a lot of things to say. He was a great producer, but did you ever look at his breedings? The ones that were really successful? Do you
I,
look at them? If you look at those successful breedings of his, it tells me that his paperwork is the heavy tombstone blood.
okay.
I just, other than, and does anybody even use the original paperwork on him anymore?
I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
I mean, and, his dogs generations down kind of look like him, don't they?
Right. But so right, right. Well, I haven't, to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of buck dogs myself. But what do you think of some of his far as even the breedings you made to him? You got any of the any of the offspring stand
Yes.
out?
Yes, actually, there are 3 or 4 that stand out really. I actually beat one that was phenomenal. Little Bucky, Corvette George and Beanstalk brought an Idi Amin dog to us to breed the buck when Alan and I had him. And that litter dropped the same weekend as Booger and Greenwood Scarlet dropped. And little Bucky had won 2 over 2 really good dogs, and I hooked with him down at a show in Alexander. It was a big show. with Booger Jr., who was Booger Scarlet, and Jr. wound up pulling his face apart in under an hour, I think it was, something like that, winning Best in Show. There was another one I had. We called her Little Brandy, which was from Buck Brandy. I won 3 with her, and she was really good dog. Reminded me, of all the dogs I had, she reminded me most of Buck. You never saw the best out of her.
Oh, okay.
Never saw the best out of her. She had a great mouth like his, looked like him, was 33 pounds, actually.
And did she carry the traits as being smart?
Yeah, she was smart. She was extremely smart. I had to chain her inside a kennel because if you didn't, she figured out how to get away from either one of them.